Hi everyone. For the evening reflection today, I'm focusing on Elizabeth. I know the church focuses on St. John the Baptist, but for me as a spiritual director, I'm focusing on Elizabeth and her role as prophetess in the church. Not in the hierarchy of the church, but in God's promise, in God's lineage. And I'm focusing on her because her voice is the voice of one that goes against tradition. It goes against family. It goes against what is normal and what is expected. And you see that in the reading for today. You see that she's coming from the old stock, the old lineage, and the tradition of Aaron, which is the priestly role. And when they ask, what do you want to name this child? She's choosing a name that is completely different to what they expect. And again, you see this through the restoration of faith, Zechariah's speech is restored. So for me, I focused on her because she's the bridge. And then when Mother Mary arrives, you don't see her fighting for position, for power, for authority. She welcomes her and she says, who is this that the mother of my child should come to me? So we don't see this antagonism, this like, oh yeah, you know what, you aging, now the next generation must come up. We don't see any of this in God's tradition, but we do see the new voice. We see the new thing that is happening where it's breaking away from the normal family tradition, and there's a newness to what Elizabeth is doing in naming her son. And so for us as spiritual directors, we are often called midwives because we bring to birth, or we help people to bring to birth their faith. We help people to return to God without hurting them. And we don't believe in energy. Like there are energy centers and all that in the body, but we don't believe in that energy. We believe that it's by God's grace. It's by God's grace that a newness comes, the naming of the child outside of the tradition, and trusting that that is God's plan. Because it could have been seen as something strange. It could have been seen as something evil for her to name her child John, but it isn't. And so for us as spiritual directors, that's what it's about. It's about not only recognizing the tradition, the authority of the family structure, the religious structure, but recognizing our role as women in the church and recognizing that God speaks to us too. And in that season of waiting, because 9 months is usually the period that we use for reflection, so it coincides with the birth of a child, the birth of a baby. And it's that time of hiddenness, the wilderness, the time of sometimes feeling like, when is this going to happen? It's taking forever. And being in those seasons where you are not completely feeling like you're held by God, but you know that you are held by God. That's a wilderness season. And it can be true of nations too. So often you see that when I speak of South Africa or Zimbabwe or the SADC region, you see how my face lights up. You see how I'm a different person, because in that culture, my Christian tradition is strong. My faith is strong. The laws that are in place are strong. They are focused around Christianity. And so for me, Canada is a wilderness. It's a wilderness because I'm at peace. I'm myself, when I'm interacting with people who come from Ireland, or people who come from Zimbabwe, from Nigeria, from the SADC region, because we have that same spirituality where our religion is out up front. If I go out wearing this cross, everybody stares at it. Everyone notices it because it stands out, because people don't normally wear crosses and things here. So again, it's the spirituality of the nation that, it's not that important. Money comes first. If you don't want to work, then we're firing you. There's no job for you. It's too hard to accommodate you. So this is for me, this is a wilderness country. Because when I'm even in the church, when I'm with the South Africans, with the Irish, with people who have come here from the SADC region, I'm different because I'm with my people. I'm with people who put the faith first. I'm with people who know that within that corral, within that, like the Dutch wagons joined together, we are united. But in the wilderness of Canada, it's like, oh no, everybody must be respected, not just your perspective. And if you can't work and you're sick, go and sit at home. Just be dependent on the government, because what is your faith? So it's this wilderness culture. Even if I don't leave Canada, by God's grace I will, because I don't feel like this is a good fit for me. But even if I don't, I know where my voice is valued. I know who I'm with that brings out that joy in me and brings out that love of God. So it's a season too with Elizabeth, because she's gone through this period of waiting. Her husband has lost his speech, and she doesn't say that, oh, I don't know, maybe his speech won't be returned, even if I trust the Lord. She has that complete faith that I'm going to move through this season and I'm going to name my child John, and I know that this is the right name. And it doesn't have to be in line with what the family tradition is, what the hierarchical structure is. She's bringing about something new. So too it is with me. My spirituality aligns with Elizabeth, because my calling as a spiritual director doesn't come from man. It comes from God. My giftedness doesn't come from man, it comes from God. Because the priests that I started out with, they're not here with me. Father Peter Knox is not here with me. Father Damien Howard is not here with me. Father Graham Fusion is not here with me. But they are the ones who gave me those first opportunities in the church to serve, to help with retreats. And even in the family, at a young age, I had started doing it. I had started saying to my cousin, let's do a retreat. Let's go out. Let's hire some chalets and we can go out like close to the river, and we can sing, we can praise, we can have time away together. So even from there, I had my own calling that was becoming stronger and stronger. And that's true of Elizabeth too. God doesn't only do things for us in our youth, God can also do things for us in our old age. Whatever age of life we're at, God can still work through that. And when the next generation comes up, the people that once were the children that I was taking for children's liturgy, or they were in the congregation watching me doing the children's liturgy, doing the readings, when they come up, I don't say, well, why are you doing it? It's only for me. I don't want you to do it. I'm happy for them. So that's how it is between Mary and Elizabeth in the scripture. And that birthing of new spiritual directors, like midwives, we are like midwives. So some people focus on the wounded healer, and they make it about the woundedness and healing the pain in your life. Some of us focus on how we are like midwives, and we are waiting for this birth, this new birth, which will come. And some of us focus on a different image. It could be an image of like a flower, waiting for that flower to bloom. Everyone has their own image of how they incorporate that spirituality. But that's what I wanted to focus on today for this feast of St. John the Baptist, the role of the women in the Bible story, and my own role, my own voice, and how sometimes that it's not the voice that family wants me to have, it's not the voice that the church wants me to have, it's not the voice that other people want me to have, but it's trusting in God my husband, in God my beloved, in God my Redeemer, in God my Savior. It's trusting in that voice and trusting that God is with me in the decisions that I must make or I will make. And for me, I don't feel my future is in this country. If this country wants to continue to choose to be a secular country, it's not going to be here. I don't want to go to America. I would rather go back to Africa, because that's my home. That's where I was born. And yes, I'm Indian, but I'm also African, just like everybody born here or who becomes a citizen of this country is Canadian. So it's a different spirituality, and the church is strong in Canada, but the church is not strong enough to challenge businesses, to say that we want our Catholics to have their Good Fridays off and their Easter, and it's only the banks that do that. So unless I land up working in banking again, it's going to be very hard, because the hospitals also gave me that off. When I was working, when I had days that had religious obligations, it was never a problem. So it's to focus on that role of women, and who am I in that Elizabeth type of spirit, because Elizabeth had to be very strong to say, no, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm not going to name him John. Because again, she was a woman coming up against a male culture, and her husband couldn't speak. So she spoke, and you see the power that we have as women. That's our journey. We don't have to be physical mothers. We can be spiritual mothers. We can be daughters. We can be aunts. We can be who God calls us to be in our journey. And to know that God sees what's in our hearts. So it doesn't tell you whether Elizabeth was hurt by what they were doing. It doesn't tell you all the emotions she went through. It just tells you about how she trusted God, and how through that faith things change. So that's what I wanted to focus on for today, and to focus on how through Elizabeth then we get St. John the Baptist and the celebration of St. John the Baptist. But the role of women in the Bible often is not talked about, it's not emphasized, it's not brought out into the front, except for Mother Mary. But I was very touched by what Elizabeth did, by her courage, by her using her voice, by her being so grounded in her faith that she just said, no, this is going to be his name. His name is John. And it's not, she didn't fear, like, what is going to come if I say this. There was none of that fear. So, yeah, in this secular culture, this multicultural culture, there isn't one is better than the other. It's competing interests. And it's very sad when women get shot, women get killed, women get treated badly just because we're women. It's very sad. When you're kept out of jobs, you're stopped from working just because you're a woman. It's very sad. But that's what's happening in Canada. That's what's happening. There's a big push for women to stay at home and for the men to work. And it's very sad. For me, it's very sad. But I trust in God, and I trust that God will open that right opportunity for me. And if it's not here, hopefully it will be back in Zimbabwe or South Africa or that region where the faith is strong. And even Boko Haram is going to fail. They're killing the priests, they're doing all this, it's all going to fail. Because the money that supports it is going to dry up. It's all going to fail.